Hello everybody, and we are back with another chess analysis video. This is, it's been a while since I've done one of these, just how it is. And we're at the 1296 rating range. We've kind of been stuck in this high 1200s to low 1300 range for a while. Not been spending too much time honing my skills, mostly just playing games and occasionally doing puzzles. But yeah, it's a slow process. It's a marathon, not a sprint. That's what I always try and say. Anyway, so this first game is, well, this is the only game actually, so I don't know why I said first game. I felt like this would be actually a good game to analyze because I was applying a very simple principle that I think a lot of people around my rating kind of lose track of. I've discussed before about how people around my rating are really scared of exchanging. And there's this concept that I got from this book called The First Book of Morphy. I'm sure they didn't invent it, but it's basically that when you're up in material, you should trade because it simplifies the position, obviously, and it leads to a situation where mathematically you're more likely to come out ahead. You're not going to make as many mistakes, and the position will sort of dictate a clear winner. Like, imagine a situation where, well, we don't need to imagine any situations because we'll see it in action in this game. Okay, so we start with d4 as we always do, and they go with an English defense, which isn't something that I commonly face. But I've learned that when I'm playing against unconventional openings with d4, I basically try and do some like King's Indian type structure here, because that's very easy for me. And it puts my king in a secure spot, rather than just going with the c4 and like the typical Queen's Gambit style structure. Okay, so yeah, we're responding with stuff that seems like it makes sense, but we're already pretty out of book from my perspective because I don't know any kind of theory behind the English opening. And yeah, so let's see. So right now it says that they're ahead because I don't know why. Apparently h6 is just devastating. Okay, so here, bishop g5. Oh, we actually went with d takes e5. It pretty much leads to the same outcome, but now this the d file is insecure. Contested, I should have said, not insecure. And yeah, we end up having to trade the bishop anyway, because of course if we move our bishop there, then they move the pawn here, and we have to trade the bishop for a pawn, so it's better to just trade here. Pretty straightforward. Also, they take with a knight, which makes sense. Now, here's a situation where we don't want to trade, and here's why. Because this whole lesson of this analysis is going to be about trading, so I may as well bring this up. Probably obvious to a lot of people, but just for the people who it isn't. Obviously, if I take this, then they can take with the rook, and now their rook is in a stronger position, and I get no compensation for that whatsoever. I've basically given away control of the d file, so it's better to keep it contested. But of course, the danger is if they take my d queen, then it's a completely different situation. I don't control the d file because I take with my king, which doesn't control the d file at all. It controls this one square, and then the rook can just come in and kick the king out, and it's just an ugly situation because I don't get to castle. So their side is good, our side not so good. So we castle. And yeah, that solves the problem, right? Now, if they take, then we can take with our rook, and the same principle applies. And they're smart enough to not do that. But this is kind of a weak move, IMO, because the bishop is, hitting a wall of pawns. So I actually think moving the bishop here would have been better. Because it still gets the, it still allows for the castling. Bishop d6. So they think that this would have been better. Yeah, because then at least it's your pawn's blocking it, but even then, I mean, it still doesn't seem obviously great to me. But I guess the idea is it's just a temporary place to put it anyway. Anyway, so here's where the chaos begins. Because this pawn is no longer defended, because it was defended by the knight here, this allows us to take this. Also, we couldn't take it before because the bishop would have taken this, but now that we've castled, we are now defending this. And this is the start of the end for our opponent. It's a very small advantage we have now, 1.3. In terms of material, we are up 1 pawn. However, they have 1 more bishop than me. So if you believe, as many do, that bishops are better than knights, then maybe they have a chance. I think they do have a chance, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so they castle, and we're trying to get our knight out. And this move here, does the game like that? Knight c6. Oh, okay, it does. Nice. Yeah, I wasn't too sure about this. I mean, obviously attacking this is nice and all, but I was concerned about the fact that the knight wouldn't have many places to escape. I mean, it would have 1 place to escape, which would lead to a trade, which is fine, but still not something that I was too comfortable with. But yeah, forcing the queen to vacate, and then we make our first trade. You see, as I said earlier, there's the principle that if you're ahead, you should trade to simplify the position. And I was like, well, it is a very small advantage that I currently have, but maybe I should follow that principle, because I'm not sure at the moment how I'm going to get to a win. There's a lot of like pieces involved and stuff. So I was thinking, if the opportunities come, I'll just trade pieces. And, you know, as long as I can keep that 1 pawn advantage, it'll hopefully snowball into something bigger. So that was my plan at this point. So the bishop's in a slightly better position now, though. And yeah, we're trying to get our rook active. Once again, we trade. And our advantage, according to the engine, is the same. So far, we haven't got any distinct advantage from these trades, but it has simplified the position. So, engine actually prefers g6 here. What? Oh, c3. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't do c3. Right, we do another trade, and then we get our rook on the e-file. And here's where we start trying to block off the bishop's movement. Once again, okay, so this pawn move was to stop the king from getting out. The king can't move there because of the knight, and now the pawn's blocking it. And because it's on a white square, it's not really threatened by anything, at least at the present point. Okay, so with that in mind, let's see what happens next. So the rook goes there, then I take, then boom. Okay, so now it's gone up from like 1.5 to 1.9, but still we are only +1. And here's where the differences between the knight and the bishop really start coming into play, because that's basically the main asymmetry, apart from the fact that I have 1 extra pawn. And my king is a bit closer to the action, I think. At least in terms of how much maneuverability my king has. My king has a lot more maneuverability than theirs. Their king wants to be over here or like over here, but they're not. While my king can very easily get over there because the bishop isn't really stopping my king's movement that much. Those are just sort of like some of the dynamics of the position, but yeah, so at this point I'm trying to block off the bishop, right? This move right here, a4, c3, yeah, so the engine doesn't mind this move, because now the bishop can go there, but it's not really doing anything, and that's about it, right? It can't move anywhere else. So the bishop is kind of cramped now, because of the way my pawns are structured. And that's an advantage of the knight, right? Because if you have like a position where there's like a lot of defensive pawns, the knight can potentially hop over them, or like hop towards the one in the back rank that's defending the other ones. So anyway, this video might go on for a while, I apologize. So yeah, the pawn goes forward. This was kind of a sloppy move. Yeah, that brings me up to 2.5. The engine prefers king d7. But yeah, we'll see. The advantage is slowly raising now. All I needed to do was get it so they had just a few pawns and a static bishop and a weak king. And now, even though I only have a 1 pawn advantage at this point, or like, well, it's more like a 2 pawn advantage, it's enough because they don't have any good moves, or not any obvious good moves anyway. So they're just going to continue to weaken their own position, and I can turn that very small advantage into a winning advantage, especially when there's so few pieces in play. Obviously that small advantage scales more. Like, you know, having 1 extra piece is more significant if there are like 2 pieces than if there were 4 pieces, you know, that kind of concept. Okay, so so this is where we start, and this move was good for me because this allows me to move the knight here, which I wanted to do eventually anyway, because that's like the only way I'm going to get my knight over here would be to go here and then either here or here, and yeah. But this allows me to do it now, and now I'm attacking this, and the problem for them is that the king cannot reach this in time. It is undefended. So this means nothing, because I can just move the king. Then they do this. Still trying to save that pawn, but it's not enough, because we just move here, they take, I take, and then what? Right? The king cannot get to the pawn in time. And in fact, this king is just so much closer to these remaining enemy pawns that it's pretty much over. As you can see, it's gone up to 7.7. And then we'll just see how I finish this off, but yeah. So, yeah, they're pretty screwed at this point, because I can easily box their king away. And, like, even if I lose a pawn, which I do at one point, it doesn't matter because I have 2 pawns here. And, yeah, they surrender. Okay, so lesson learned, right? Always, well, not always. None of these chess principles are universal, unfortunately. There's sometimes other principles that override them, but I think it is a good principle in general. When you are ahead material, trade. Even if it's a infinitesimally small amount of material, or maybe not if it's like 0.5. But, you know, I was ahead 1 pawn, and I turned that into a snowball, which ended up with, you know, this position that you're looking at right here. And it all came from just my willingness to trade pieces and simplify the position. Yeah, okay, so at this point here, right, it's very simple for me. My plans are very simple. All I need to do is constrict the movement of this bishop and get this knight over here, right? Get this knight over here. And I'll win, because even though they have the king to defend, and they can move the bishop to defend as well, probably, like defend some of these pawns at least, I have my king too. And it wouldn't have ended well, basically, like no matter what happened here, because the bishop was just a lot more constricted. That's it. Hope you enjoyed, and that is the end of the video. Remember, if you are ahead, don't be afraid to trade, because you'll end up simplifying things. You've got less chance of throwing the game if you don't give the enemy any chances to, like, do some sneaky tactics with, like, hidden pieces or, like, you know, crazy forks, that kind of thing. Just restrict their movement like I was doing with this bishop, you know, moving this pawn here, keeping that pawn there, keeping this little structure here, and take all their pieces. Trade. Force them to trade. And if they refuse to trade, then, like, if they run away with their pieces, then that's even better, because that's you gaining control of the board. Alright, this video is long enough, so if you think I made any errors of judgment, then leave a comment and let me know. Otherwise, I will see you next time. Farewell.